Yeah, in the interview with Rock Bottom radio show and YouTube channel, Maiah Wynne, is it pronounced rightly?
Yes.
Okay, of the band Envy of None, because of their new and first album, debut album. Maiah, it's a great album, great sounds, great atmospheres, fantastic. But it's an album nobody would have expected, maybe from you as a singer-songwriter, or from Alex as a progressive rock musician, or from Andy. So could you explain, how did you find this unique and, how should I say, unusual style of your music?
Yeah, I think it was really a contribution from everybody, and it was the sum of all of our parts that really created our sound. I think for me, I really brought in some of my signature vocal styles to a lot of these songs. I produced a lot of my own vocals. I recorded them and arranged them, and made sure to bring in a lot of harmonies and textures and layers, and that's sort of the thing that I love to do, and it was really fun to explore that on this project and some different genres than I normally play in. And then of course Alex brought in some really amazing textures and all of those sort of soundscapes and things that sort of wrap around you and add all those little rhythmic textures you wouldn't really think were guitars on first listen. And then Andy and Alf really worked hard to bring that like gritty bass and moving beats and synths. And I think just the sum of all of those parts really came together well. And once we had the first song, it was easier to follow that path with the next songs and just keep creating in that same kind of genre, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's a very versatile album. So could everybody bring in his own ideas and his own identities? How was the songwriting and the composing process? How would you see it? Could
Yeah, I
everybody?
think everybody really was able to bring in their own ideas, and it was nice for me too because we did everything virtually for the most part. So we all sort of stayed in our own home studios and recorded our parts, and then we would send them to Alf, and Alf would generally mix them all together. Alex also mixed a couple of the songs really well, and but really it was nice. We had our own space to really record our own pieces and come up with our own ideas without restriction, really. And then we would just send everything. Sometimes I would send up to 40 vocal tracks to these guys, and and they would whittle them down sometimes. And that was the fun of it. You got to really explore your own ideas for the song, and then send way more tracks than were needed, and then you'd find it in the mix. And Alf did a really good job
Yeah.
with that.
So it's done, online, totally online. You didn't meet in a studio like it was in older days. It
Yeah,
was,
we did do two songs in the studio for vocals. Early on I went to Toronto and recorded Enemy, or yeah, it was Enemy and Never Said I Love You were the two songs I did in the studio vocally
yeah,
with Alf and Andy, and that was really fun. But everything else was completely virtual.
great, yes. And yeah, there is no drummer, because why don't you have a permanent drummer? What was your idea behind that?
I think it was really that the main core of the song was the four of us, and then a lot of times the drummer had already drummed on the track before we started working together. Andy already had a lot of these instrumental ideas for years, and so some of these drummers didn't drummed on these tracks, but years ago. And there was a couple drummers we brought in at the end of the process, like David Steinberg. And it was really just that each song was different. Each song required a different approach, and we almost always either brought in the drums at the very beginning or at the very end, after we had already done all this process together. And I think it was really up to Andy and which favors he wanted to call in for the songs to get drums on them.
Yeah. And you mentioned Alf. He plays guitar, and how have Alex and Alfio shared the guitar parts? Is it a twin guitar playing, or how is it arranged between Alex and Alf?
Yeah, actually, Alf is a really talented guitar player, and a lot of times Alf and Andy would come up with some of the instrumental ideas together. And in that process, Alf would play some of the more standard guitar parts. And then once they finished the instrumental ideas, they would send it to me, and I would add vocals and lyrics and sort of help arrange the final song. And then Alex usually wanted to add guitars after I added vocals, and then he would add a lot of textures and harmonies and sometimes lead parts and things that floated in and out. And that's really what he enjoyed doing on this project, I think, the most, is that he really loved adding guitars that didn't sound like guitars and
Yeah,
adding textures and layers that really just, it made every song fill out so nicely. And it was really, really amazing to see what Alex did at the end. And they
yeah,
worked really well together.
it's a great soundscape, great elements, very versatile, and a dark mood, but not depressing. It's always a little bit
Yeah.
dark, but in a positive way. And I guess you have written the lyrics. How did you find the lyrics, especially, for example, Cowboy Blues and Spy House? I guess these were tracks from Alex that were originally instrumental tracks. I remember. So how hard was it to find the lyrics, and how did you find the lyrics? What was your inspiration behind the lyrics?
Yeah. I think I've I've decided that Spy House was probably the hardest song for me on the record to come up with lyrics and vocals for. It was already, both of the songs were already such great instrumental pieces. And so I really wanted to find vocals that felt like they were reflective of the emotion of the instrumental piece, but also referenced the title of the song, which was really challenging for Spy House.
Yeah.
It took a little bit. I had to sort of create a character that I wrote essentially a story about for Spy House, and it's very paranoid. There's also a little bit of love there, and a little bit of kind of creepy vibes, but there's also those beautiful moments where everything blooms and you have that guitar solo that comes in. And so it was really kind of fun in the end to come up with a story for that song that felt like it fit all of those complex emotions kind of hiding underneath that song. And it was really fun. And then for Cowboy Blues, it was also kind of challenging at first, just because it was such a complex instrumental piece. And I remember asking Alex, is this in a major or a minor key? And he just said yes, because it was both, and it was sort of
Yeah,
floating in
yeah,
and out.
yeah,
And but once I sat with that song and listened to it a bunch on a road trip, and watching the sunset and watching the sky in the car for hours and listening to that song.
yeah.
Actually wrote the lyrics for Cowboy Blues in the car while I was just sitting there. And um,
Yeah,
yeah, it
interesting.
was actually a great place to do it.
Yeah, and there's one song about your dog, I guess.
Yeah, there's Dog's Life. So Dog's Life, originally Andy had some vocal ideas for it and lyrics that were about a dog, and he sent them to me early on as a rough draft. And as always, sometimes with these songs he'd have a few lyric ideas or vocal ideas, but he'd always say, but make it your own, feel free to not use whatever.
Hmm.
And so I would always listen to it and then see where my inspiration took me. And that one, I wasn't connecting as much to the dog lyrics as much as I love dogs.
Yeah.
But something about the phrase "it's a dog's life" um, reminded me about work and overworking and sort of the feeling of working your life away for a dream. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so that's really where I took the lyrics of the song and made it more of a metaphor about how we all work so hard towards our dreams, towards our goals in life, and how it can really sort of, you know, I guess
Hmm.
enslave us in a way to that work
Yeah.
and those dreams. So yeah, that's really where that song ended up. But it did start out as a song about a dog.
And liar and enemy, it's more aggressive from the lyrics. How would you see it? What's behind these liar and enemy? That's very focused. What's
Yeah,
behind it?
Liar, I actually I rewrote the verses. They had that song was one of the only ones they had already fully written, and they actually had a different vocalist on it originally, and they were like, it's okay if you want to change things. And so I rewrote the verses, and I didn't really have a lot of inspiration for it until I went to jury duty. And I had a really kind of scary interaction with the woman who was on trial. And she was very menacing and cold and creepy and kind of haunting. And so it stayed with me. And I actually ended up writing the verses about her.
Yeah.
So that's where some of that like creepy, spooky undertones for Lyre come from. And then for Enemy, we actually worked on that about 4 years ago now. And for me, living in Portland, Oregon, there's been a lot of political unrest. There's been a lot of protests, a lot of really just, you feel a lot of that energy living here, and you wish you could do more. You wish you could help more, and you want the violence to stop. You want people to stop getting hurt. It's a stressful situation. And obviously it's very, very relevant now, the lyrics, especially to the situation, happening in Ukraine. And so, it's a song that I think is very relevant to a lot of different issues in our world.
Yeah.
And it was a good place for me to channel a lot of those feelings when all of that was happening here too.
Yes, and very interesting. And so Alex and Andy and Alfio are very experienced musicians who are a tiny little bit older than you. And otherwise, so what could you learn from them? But otherwise, what could they learn from you? How would you see this process of learning from each other?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of us learning from each other. I definitely learned a lot from those guys, and especially this process has been a long one. We started working on music together 5 years ago was when we first started working on Shadow, and so it's been we didn't really have a timeline for things. So especially early on, it was just sort of casual, and we'd send something and then wait a few months and send something else. And I think just through this process of, I've grown up a lot as well, but I think these guys have been so kind, and Andy and Alex, and especially with their experience with the industry and touring, and getting to hear stories from Alex of being out on the road, and it's just been so enlightening and wonderful to just get an inside look at what that life has been like for him. And I've learned so much just from that process of getting to know them, and of course through the music. I think, this process, I've grown a lot as a vocalist and as a lyricist, and I've learned a lot about stepping outside of my normal genre and challenging myself. And these guys have been so supportive of me through that process, and really lifted me up and made me feel like I did a good job. And and then from the other side, I think, because I am younger, I was a little bit more tuned into, the industry has changed so much, and I'm a little bit more in tune with the modern industry, and they're used to an industry where, you can get a label and go the more traditional route. And it's been really eye-opening for me to see what the more traditional route is like, and to have a label, and all of this process has been really eye-opening for me. And then on my end, I'm bringing in TikTok and social media, and trying to sort of like balance out the other side of it. And so it's been really cool to sort of learn from each other, and see all of the different aspects of the music industry.
So they didn't have an idea of TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, or what was it? Social media new for them, or a new aspect for
No,
them?
I think they know social media. I don't think they know TikTok very well. I think, that's a little bit outside of their normal social media habits. But they're definitely on Facebook and stuff. I don't think Alex spends a lot of time on social media, which is understandable. I think, when you have that many fans, it's probably hard to be on social media without being bombarded by people, and so I think he doesn't spend as much time on there, and isn't as into the social media trends. But it's been nice to sort of have some things like that I can bring to the table. And especially early on, before we had the label on board, I was, starting all our social media pages, and bringing a little bit of that to the table, which is fun.
Yeah, but you mentioned before you have worked for 5 years on 2 tracks. Yeah, is it 5
Yeah,
years in the making, or just some songs? I thought you have met these guys in the last year, or how was it?
no, it's been 5 years, but it's 5 years of the whole album. We just slowly kept working on music throughout the 5 year process. And then, within the last year, we were like, wow, we have almost 10 tracks. Maybe we should just release
Yeah.
this. And then once we decided to release it, everything, was way faster. And we're like, okay, we have a label now. Okay, get it out and, finish
Yes.
everything right away.
But the
Um,
record started 5 years ago in the beginning. Yeah. I didn't know.
yeah.
I thought you met these guys last year or some kind like that.
No,
Uh,
I was really young. I met Andy through a song contest that I won. We
mm,
had a mentorship Zoom call together, and I think I just turned 20 years old. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great, great. And yeah, it's very interesting. And yeah, will there be a follow-up album, or is it just first album wait, or do you are planning a second album right now? How would you see it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have asked us about that, and I think there's a good chance. I know that Andy already has a folder of more song ideas waiting, and I think we're sort of waiting to see what happens with the record, and then, you
Yeah.
know, hopefully we'll keep making music together.
So the tour is not relevant at the moment, I guess. It's too early. Maybe one album. It's not possible to go on tour with one album. I guess it's a studio project at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, although we have talked about doing a few sort of one-off shows. Um, I'm sure we could find ways to supplement the music if needed. And I do feel like it would be really fun to see what these songs sound like live. And we've talked about it just from a maybe a few special shows kind of standpoint. I think that would be fun.
Fantastic. I'm very interested, but I live on the other side of the sea. And yeah, you have recorded. I saw your YouTube videos, and there are many nice and great singer-songwriter songs. They've got a yeah, country atmosphere. Some have a country atmosphere,
Yeah.
yeah, folk atmosphere, and great closing and very good. So what do you prefer more of, writing in a band like Envy of None, or yeah, working for your own music, your own albums or your own music?
I think I'm really excited to finish my album, my solo album. I definitely want to keep making music with these guys and keep making this style of
Yeah.
music, but I'm also very excited to finish my record. And I think I've done a lot of songs for specific projects. I did a Western song for a Western film, and I've done a lot of songs for film and television where it's a very specific style, and none of it has felt like it's exactly me as an artist. So I'm really excited now after this entire experience with Envy of None and learning and growing through that as well, to release my own album that feels like is me, is Maiah Wynne, and I can really share with the world and be really proud of. So I'm
Mhm.
very excited for that too, and I think it might surprise some people. I do have a lot of musical influences, and there's folk, as you said, and some country influences, but also electronic influences and rock influences, and I think it's going to be a really interesting blend of things, and I'm very excited. And I've already, roped Alex into playing some guitars and stuff on certain tracks, and he's actually played
Good.
yeah, he played banjo on one of the tracks, which is very really awesome. And uh,
Fantastic. Yeah.
I'm really excited for it.
So they can help you in advising you for some songs. Maybe they've got connections for producers or studios. I'm not quite sure. So it's good. And I guess Envy of None will be helpful for your solo career as well. I am sure
Oh,
it
I'm
brings
sure
you
it will be.
publicity,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's good. And when can we expect your solo record?
It'll be out by September.
By
And then I'll tour a little bit with it. A small tour, but yeah.
It's good, yeah. And I have read that you were on the Berklee College of Music. Are you still on this college, or have you finished your studies?
No, I'm still studying. I'm doing it very slowly because I don't have a lot of time. So I've been
Yeah.
doing one or two classes at a time. But I'm just finishing this semester right now, actually, and I've been learning so much. And music production is what I've been focused on, and I really enjoy the process. And it was really fun for me to learn through Envy of None, actually, more about vocal production and recording and engineering. And I did a lot of that myself and learned a lot throughout that 5 year process. By the end,
Hmm.
I got pretty good at it. And um, I'm still learning. There's so much to learn with music production. It's like learning an entire new language, but there really is a need for more women in the industry. So I'm really excited to learn and to have, these really amazing connections and these really talented guys to sort of ask
Hmm.
questions if I need to and learn in this process and keep growing. And I couldn't ask for better mentors in the world of music. So I'm very
Of
excited about
course, but it's a
learning.
good combination. Your studies in one way, the theory, and otherwise practice in your bands, and with such experienced guys in the background. Fantastic.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
both. So it's good, good. And you are singing, you are playing guitar, yeah, you're playing piano and many other instruments. So are you basically self-taught, or did you have a training in musical education, or did your parents teach you all these instruments? How did you come to so many instruments?
I'm mostly self-taught, but I did have some education in different areas. Like early on, I took piano lessons for a few years, and my dad plays piano really well, and he taught me a lot of the songs that he knew when I was young. And then, from there, I really loved it, and I kept teaching myself different instruments. And I found my dad's old guitar that he never learned how to play, and I took it to my room and started teaching myself how to play it. And then I just fell in love with the process and kept teaching myself more and more instruments. Um, and then I also had choir in school that I took for 7 years. And that really helped me hone my sense of harmony and vocal harmony. And that really influenced me a lot
Hmm.
vocally. And then my grandpa is a bluegrass musician. He
Hmm.
plays banjo and mandolin, and
Well,
that,
yeah,
yeah, really encouraged me to learn how to play
great.
those instruments. Yeah.
That's the influence. It's a very music orientated family. That's good. And what's your parents? Are they proud of their daughter now or before?
Yes, yeah. I think, early on it's really hard to make it in music, so I don't blame them for not being super excited about me trying to pursue a career in music, especially early on. But I think they've really seen how hard I've worked over the past, you know, I guess, gosh, I started playing shows when I was 15, so it's been 10 years for me now,
Well,
and it's been a long process, and I've worked really hard, and I think they've seen that, and they've seen that I mean, obviously this project has been so successful for me, especially as somebody who just feels like some random girl from Oregon. So it's been really exciting, I think, for them to see, and I think they're really proud of me and happy for me that I've sort of gotten a foothold a little bit in the industry, and I think they're really supportive of me now, and know that it's something I'm really serious about, and um, they've been really great. Yeah.
maybe in a few years you're playing huge arenas here, Hamburg, Barclaycard Arena.
I
There's
hope so.
15,000 people, but you start with smaller venues in the beginning, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, what were your musical role models? Did you have bands or female singers
Mm.
or that inspired you, or were you tried, oh, this would be my hero or some kind like that?
Oh, definitely. It's so hard to choose because I listened to so many different artists growing up of different genres. I was just reminiscing about how I used to listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers in middle school a lot. That was sort of my main band in middle school was Red Hot Chili
Hmm.
Peppers, and then No Doubt. But then I sort of started listening to artists like Fiona Apple and Yael Naim and KT Tunstall and uh, Nora Jones was one of my early vocal influences. I love her voice. I love her music. I think uh, don't know why, it was the first cover song I ever learned. And I really love Nora Jones, and her
Hmm.
presence and vocals are just so beautiful. But I've really, there's so many talented and incredible artists out there. It's really hard to choose just a
Yeah,
few, but
of
yeah,
course.
I had a lot.
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, it's a good attitude. And yeah, the cover, we'll come back to Envy of None. The cover, the artwork is a very interesting, very strong women. So how did you come to these tough women, to this cover artwork?
Yeah, it was actually, Andy had a connection to a photographer that worked at a company called Plastic, and they had this sort of catalog of photos they had, and we searched through the catalogs to try to find one photo that we felt like would be a good album cover, and something about that picture, which I think was originally an advertisement for a purse company, um, and something about those women in that picture was so striking and just got all of our attention, and I think we all agreed really easily about that picture. And it's so, those women, there's something about the look in their eyes and
Yeah,
their intensity, and then we changed the purses to pills because they were basically already pill shaped, and it just added a little bit of intrigue and mystery. And I think it was really just it was an easy one for all of us to agree on, that that picture was the one. It just really got our
yeah, yeah,
attention.
good, yeah. The Envy of None, how did it come? I guess somebody suggested it, a drummer or of some kind suggested the band name, or how did it come? Or
Yeah,
is
that
it
was
like
actually,
some kind of feeling in the band? Envy of none, nobody is
yeah.
envious, and everybody harmony, total
Yeah,
harmony.
it
Okay.
was a suggestion from David Steinberg, who drummed on most of the songs, and he really was a an important part of the music for a lot of those songs. But he actually suggested that band name. We had a working title called In the Middle of Nowhere, but there was a lot of bands already called that, so we couldn't use
Mhm.
it. And
Okay, yeah.
yeah, David had saved this name for years. He memorized this quote about Caesar in college, and he memorized it. And the end of the quote, it says something about is amenable to the envy of none, and he really liked that phrase and
Of
saved it for a
course.
rainy day. And I love it. I love that, to me it's sort of reminiscent of Garbage. It's sort of like, it's a little bit self-deprecating. It's and I kind of like that. I like that energy, and I like that it sort of, we really are just sort of this quirky group of people, and it's unusual, and maybe we are the envy of none. I don't know, but it's I really like how it sort of encaptures a little bit of our essence of just, a random group of four people that ended up making music together. And um yeah, I like it. I think it's a really cool band name. So thanks, David.
Yes. So do you have further information for your fans, Envy of None fans, or your, yeah, fans of your solo career, something that is left out, unmentioned things?
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, I guess it's not really left out at this point, but my album that's coming out, I'm really excited about, and I'm very excited to have Alex playing some instruments on it as well,
Of
and
course.
hopefully Andy, and um, I am very much looking forward to it. So definitely just keep an eye out for that. I just acted in a movie um, last month, and that was a big deal for me. Because I also really enjoy acting, and it was
Mhm.
exciting for me to get to be one of the lead characters in a film, and I think that'll come out next year. So a lot of little exciting things going on for me. So just keep an eye out, I
So
guess.
you're an actress as well, or I read
Yeah.
something, but I didn't notice it very much. Ah, yeah. And are you bringing music for these movies as well? Film music? Are you supply your music for the films as well?
Yeah, in a lot of these movies, this one that I just acted in, I'm writing the end credits song for, and two of the other actors also sing. So I wrote it and got them to sing on it, and I actually recorded them in the hotel room, which was pretty funny. And um, but yeah, I love writing for film and television, and I feel really excited to get to write for some of these films. And I think I'm going to be doing a short film as well that I'll be writing a lot of the music for, and I'm excited for that too. So
Great,
it's nice to, yeah, it's nice to bring those two
really
worlds
great.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
singer-songwriter, playing many instruments, playing with Alex Lifeson and Andy Curran. That's like a lottery, they're like winning the jackpot.
Yeah.
And then acting in a movie, very, success in all your aspirations, solo, envy of none, film, studying, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then let's hope that we will hear your solo record soon in September. I'm open-minded, and Maiah, thank you very much for this nice
Thank you.
interview. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Keep on rocking.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Maiah.
so
Bye
much.
bye. Bye.